Welcome. This is an introduction into the Maryland Social Studies Standards and Framework documents. In Maryland, Social Studies has 6 standards. These standards were last updated in 2020 and are officially found in the Code of Maryland Regulations, or COMAR. The 6 standards are established to help guide the path of instruction for social studies education from pre-K through the 12th grade. The standards are the overarching ideas and concepts that help to structure the frameworks. Notice that each of the standards begins with "students will inquire." Then the language engages the specific goals of the standard. This helps to frame the inquiry-based approach to learning social studies, with the skills and processes standards serving as a vessel to help students interact through inquiry with each of the other specific content standards. Let's take a moment to focus on the skills and processes standard, often referred to as Standard 6.0. Please read the standard on your own. While you're reading, make note of the skills that are being addressed. Critically evaluate content, a variety of source materials. Develop, defend, and critique arguments. Take informed action. These ideas we can see in many places in social studies, from the standards to the frameworks to instruction. Again, the skills and processes standard helps students explore the other standards in social studies. At the beginning of each framework, there is reference and reminder to this standard, often by referencing the inquiry arc found on the bottom of your screen. The ideas in Maryland's skills and processes standard are not new. They can also be found in the C3 framework from the National Council for the Social Studies. The C3 framework is divided into 4 dimensions to help drive inquiry and learning. As our social studies community has moved towards inquiry-based instructional practices, the MSDE has tried to move the frameworks to those practices as well. The Maryland Social Studies Standards help to guide and structure the frameworks for social studies in Maryland. It is through the frameworks where the content of the specific course is engaged. These frameworks help to inform local curricula. As you can see, we've been busy in Maryland, updating and aligning the frameworks to the updated Maryland state standards. Currently, there are 2 frameworks still in the revision process. The grade 6 and grade 7 framework teacher work groups were convened at the end of the 2020-2021 school year. The expected rollout date of these frameworks is 2023. By the time the grade 6 and 7 frameworks are released, there will be a percolation of social studies skills and foundations through all grade levels. All of the Maryland Social Studies frameworks are available on the MSDE Social Studies page. A QR code and shortened URL are available on your screen for quick access. With the exception of the grade 6 and 7 frameworks, which are currently undergoing revision, all of the frameworks follow a similar format. At the beginning of the documents, you will find an overview of the course, the Maryland Social Studies Standards, information about 6.0 or the Skills and Processes Standard, and or the inquiry arc, and an explanation how to use the framework document. In 2 of the frameworks, there is an additional section in the beginning about the structure of the exam. This is only found in our middle school U.S. history and American government frameworks, since they are also assessed courses. Let's look at an example of the organization of the document. Here is an example of a secondary framework, specifically the high school U.S. history framework. In each of the frameworks, the organization is uniform. As previously stated, the Using the Document page is found in every framework, and it defines the key terms that are used. However, we will take a moment to highlight the organization. First, each framework is broken into units of study. You will see this noted on the first page of each unit. Next, the unit Enduring Understanding is the overarching or conceptual guideline for the unit. It explains why this unit is important and connects concepts and process to history and the world today. Then, the unit question. This connects the big ideas in the Enduring Understanding and essential questions to the period of study. Everything in the unit is going to contribute to answering this question. The content topic indicates the umbrella under which several common topics are organized for study. Next, the essential questions. These help the students to unpack the big ideas in the Enduring Understanding. These are questions that can be asked and answered in different times and places. So if you are reviewing several frameworks, you may see the purposeful repetition of some of the essential questions. Then we have the indicator. These are statements to assist teachers in determining how to link specific content to be studied to the essential question. And ultimately, objectives, to provide teachers with detailed information regarding what specific learning should occur. On the middle school U.S. history and American government frameworks, there is an additional column that has assessment limits highlighted. These assessment limits designate the topics which can have questions written to, which measure student understanding on the state social studies assessments. Here's an example of the elementary frameworks. You will note it looks similar to the secondary frameworks. There are just a few organizational differences. First, one of the differences is the inclusion of reading, writing, and speaking and listening skills to help teachers identify opportunities to integrate the ELA standards into the teaching of social studies. Another difference in the pre-K through 3 frameworks, content is organized within units of study that introduce and reinforce the knowledge of the Maryland State Social Studies standards. For example, on your screen, you can see this unit is built around the civics standard. In grade 4 and 5, the unit organization is similar to the secondary frameworks, meaning the state social studies standards are integrated into the overview of the history of the United States. And in this course, they use Maryland's key figures and events as a lens into the national story. Thank you for listening. Please make sure you go to the social studies page to further engage with and explore the frameworks. If you have any additional questions, please check out our website. And if you are on Twitter, be sure to follow us.